Paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Hello, everyone. This is Nate Vitti. I'm going to go over the Congressional Digest and the records for the 4th, and I may throw some of these voting information on there because there's some information that we need to hear. Congressional Activity Report, February 4th, 2006. The Daily Digest Summary of Proceedings, the U.S. Senate. The Senate convened at 10 a.m. and adjourned at 5:28 p.m. Judicial confirmations. The Senate successfully confirmed the two U.S. district judges, Aaron Christian Peterson, and confirmed to be the U.S. judge to the District of Alaska. Megan Blair Benton confirmed to the U.S. District Judge of the Western District of Missouri. And the votes from those were 58-39 in the first one, 51-46 in the second one. Pending business presumed. Consideration of Brian Charles Lee for the Western District of Tennessee. A vote is scheduled for February 5th. Resolution agreed to Senate Resolution 596, designating the week of February 2nd through 6th, 2026 as National School Council Week. The U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives. On the U.S. House of Representatives, major events, President Trump signed H.R. 7148, Consolidation Appropriation Act of 2026 into law, officially ending the partial government shutdown and funding the remainder of fiscal year. Executive message. The president transmitted a notification extending national emergency regarding the situation in Burma on beyond February 10th, 2026. And I'd like a lawyer to weigh in on that and tell me if that's possible, if he did it the right way, or if it's supposed to be approved by Congress. Markup. Committee of Oversight and Government Reform considered several bills, H.R. 7274, H.R. 2985, H.R. 4123, focused on federal acquisitions, security and technology procurement, and reform. Bill statuses. Okay, this is from the Government Tracker. H.R. 7148, Consolidated Appropriations Act, became law February 4th, 100% enacted. H.R. 7274, Federal Acquisition Security Council Improvement Act, in committee, markup 22%, rising bipartisan support. S91, Wildfire Federal Activities Improvement Act, report favorably, 48 strong, weak caucus support. H.R. 22, Safeguard American Voters and Eligibility for Save Act. Does Senate debate, 15% faces filibuster, and that's in the Senate. It's going to the Senate again, by the way, the second time. They're trying to hold the Homeland Security funding to make that go through. So we'll go ahead, and I'll get into that in a minute. Important issues that took place. About 10:15 a.m., opening of the hearing on the future of self-driving cars, featuring testimony from Tesla, Lars Marave, and Waymo. 10:15 a.m. in the House, started the subcommittee hearing runaway college spending meets the West working families tax cuts. I haven't seen that one. I got to look into that. I'll do that in a minute. Feel of it is. That's what the 1-minute speeches are, is to get a kind of general sense of how people feel. 11:30 in the Senate, floor vote on the confirmation of Aaron Christian Peterson. 4:16 p.m. in the House, commenced 1-minute speeches. Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, assumed first sponsor of H.R. 5658. Her statement focused on environmental justice and the necessary preserving local communities, bird habitat stewardship act. Representative Murphy, Republican from North Carolina, made a procedural request for the House schedule, emphasizing the need for legislative efficiency following the report of the government. We'll have to look into that too later. Senator Mark Merkley, Democrat from Oregon, from record, continued his push for the release of the Epstein files, arguing that the limited release on February 5th did not meet the standard of the Epstein File Transparency Act, HR 405. Official video record, and there will be links in my Substack report. Impact on lower and middle income citizens. This is what's going to happen from different ones. Governmental reopened HR 7148, restores pay for federal workers and restarts vital services like the Small Business Administration loans and housing assistance programs. College spending hearing, the focus on working families tax cuts aims to use tax policies to force universities to lower tuition costs, potentially reducing the debt burden from middle income students. How does it hurt? Strategic mining, HR 4090, while intended to lower long-term costs of tech components, critics argue that the environmental deregulations in the bill could lead to higher healthcare costs for lower income rural communities near mining sites. Okay, and then there's a note on the Mar-a-Lago Accords cancellation. Any gains from the work families tax cuts discussed in the House may be canceled by the administration's policy of dollar devaluation. If the dollar is intentionally weakened to help exports, the cost of imported fuel and food and electronics will rise, creating a hidden tax of inflation that hits the lower income household hardest. Keep that in mind. Remember that. Then I have the links to the bibliographies where there's some different notes. I'll play this. This is the message, the presidential message to Congress, volume 172, number 25, Senate, February 4th, 2026.
And Urban Affairs, to the Congress of the United States, Section 202, of the National Emergencies Act, 50 U.S.C. 1622, provides for the automatic termination of a national emergency unless, within 90 days prior to the anniversary date of its declaration, the President publishes in the Federal Register and transmits to the Congress a notice stating that the emergency is to continue in effect beyond the anniversary date. In accordance with this provision, I have sent to the Federal Register for publication the enclosed notice stating that the national emergency with respect to the situation in and in relation to Burma declared in Executive Order 14,014 of February 10, 2021, is to continue in effect beyond February 10, 2026. My administration is closely monitoring developments in and in relation to Burma and is engaging with relevant stakeholders and regional partners to encourage dialogue among conflict parties that reduces violence and increases political stability. I am prepared to calibrate pressure as necessary to protect American interests in and in relation to Burma. Therefore, I have determined that it is necessary to continue the national emergency declared in Executive Order 14,014 with respect to the situation in and in relation to Burma. Donald J. Trump. The White House, February 3, 2026.
That was Donald Trump and his speech to, or his correspondence to the Senate to extend the state of emergency in Burma. I haven't looked at that per se, so I'm not sure. But let's go ahead and cover up
System that thrives on abuse and misuse.
the voter rights, voter regulations. Now, the thing about it is there's no provision that says that if you don't have a matching birth certificate and driver's license or ID, they will not give you the passport. It says it's up to somebody to determine that. It's supposed to be the state, but they're taking this one, HR 22, the Safe Voters Act, looks like it's trying to take away the state's power to do the registration, and it'll be up to the federal government. Our current rules of the voter registration under federal law, the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, of 1993, commonly known as the Motor Voters Law. In this primary regulation, it requires states to offer voter registration at DMVs and other public age. It requires the states to offer, I got a remark down at the bottom, and I'll leave these remarks in there. You'll have on my Substack, you'll have the first report of the congressional records, and then I'll give you the voter rules, voter information. And it'll have the links that you can go to and see that, the first one. Okay, the federal standard. To register for a federal election, you must certainly sign a form. You must currently sign a form under penalty of perjury attesting to that you are a U.S. citizen. You are not generally provide physical documentation like a birth certificate to the federal government at the time of the registration. You provide all that at the DMV, and our DMV every so often will certify your citizenship with your birth certificate, your residency address, and then your information to ensure it's all correct. That's in Texas. I don't know about other places, but yeah. 18 U.S. Code, Section 611. It is already a federal law for non-citizens to vote on federal election, punishable by fines up to a year in prison. So it is already a crime for non-citizens to vote. If they vote, it's penalty of federal law. So there's that. They're already doing that. That's why this bill is unnecessary, except to take the power away. HAVA, H-A-V-A, 2002. The Help America Vote Act requires that first-time voters who register by mail to provide a form of ID, like a utility bill or a driver's license, when they vote. But it does not mandate proof of citizenship or the registration itself. Yeah, it's just legal speak. Yes, you can register. Some places allow registration at the site. 2, constitutional limits and violations. The U.S. Constitution provides a framework that both grants and limits power. The Elections Clause, Article 1, Section 4. This gives states the power to set the times, place, and manner of elections, but allows Congress to make or alter such regulations at any time. Also cite it as a source. The 14th Amendment, equal protection laws that place on a unique burden on specific groups such as women who have changed their names. Low-income voters can be challenged, unconstitutional. So yeah, they can. This is probably going to be challenged if it ever gets out of the House and the Senate. If you can sign into law, it'll be challenged. But yeah, you need to keep on your representatives and ensure that they know that you're not wanting this to go through. Thank you very much. 3, origins of state laws. 3, origins of state laws. Voters' registrations laws were historically local. Before the 19th century, registration did not exist, basically. In most of the U.S., you simply showed up. Systematic registration began in the mid-1800s to manage growing urban populations. Today, North Dakota remains the only state with no voter registration. Most states require registration 8 to 30 days before an election. Through 25 states now allow same-day registration. Okay, 25 states you can actually take your stuff up to stuff that your state requires when you go vote and register. Some of it's primary voting, some of it's the regular voting or early voting. Make sure you do read your state laws and get the information correct. So that's important. Find out your state laws on what it is to register and be ready to vote, and find out when your voting times are, because primaries are coming up and the midterms are coming up in November of this year. The SAVE Act, H.R. 22, 119th Congress, the Safeguard American Voters Eligibility Act, SAVE Act, basically aims to fundamentally change the NVRA 1993. Proposed changes to HR 22. Mandatory documents proof of requires physical proof, passport, birth certificate to register. Same as before. In-person requirement. Mail-in registrants must present proof in person to an official. Some of it you show up the day of the election and show proof because you'll have a restriction on your voters' information. Some of them you can have to go ahead of time and go to voter registration's office. County clerks usually do that, but find out what your information in your state is. Voter roll purges. This is something you really need to pay attention to. States must use federal database, DHS, SSA, to remove non-citizens. It's already done because they shouldn't have registered in the first place. There have been 0.01 or 0.1 fraud of non-voters voting. And yeah, you can look into that, but it's not that major of an issue, not as much as they make it out to be. Here's the legal constitutional impact. Conflict with Arizona v. Intertribal Council 2013, where SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, ruled states must accept federal forms without extra proof. Federal forms, okay. Because there's tribal record, I think. They have tribal paperwork, in-person requirements. Oh, no. Okay. Potentially violates the American with Disability Acts by burdening homebound and disabled, that's voters. I've also got a reference to that. That is the basically people who are homebound or disabled because they're not going to trying to stop in mail-in ballots. Now they have to go to the voting booths, and some people can't get in the voting booths. Some people can't see, so they have to have people read it. They have to have readers, things like that. So that's part of the reason that they have the mail-in vote, so that doesn't distract during the voting time and slow things down. That's why they have that one in place, the Disabilities Act. Federal law currently forbids systematic purges within 90 days of an election to prevent errors. I would do this with your registration. You verify your registration 90 days out. And if you are purged, re-register and keep track. I do it every month, and then 30 days out, and do it again and verify you're still registered on the 30th day in states that require 30 days out. And then keep track of it right up till the election day to see when it goes away. Because once it goes away, if it goes away, send that information to the voters election fraud lines. They have contacts, send it to them and give them the information showing when it was purged so that they can handle it. Please, please, please keep on top of this. We need this to fight. We need to ensure that we vote in midterms so we can do what we need to do. Barriers to registration. This is for the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act introduces several hurdles that may stop eligible citizens from registering. Lack of documents. Roughly 9% of American citizens do not have immediate access to a birth certificate or passport. Yeah, I had to get my birth certificate. I need to redo my passport. Name discrepancies. And as an estimated 69 million married women have legally named that do not match their birth certificate under the SAVE Act law, that they would need to provide a paper trail marriage license to prove the identity. And if you got a divorce, you're going to have to do the divorce papers and marriage. And the problem is if you get married, change your name, you get divorced, but you keep the name. So you're going to have the divorce decree to say that you still have that name when you get married. Because if you don't show the divorce decree, they may try to get you for polygamy or for marrying two people at the same time. So have that. But yeah, it's the paper trail is going to slow things down. So that means you're going to have to keep your marriage license and your other documentation from the courts saying your name change indefinitely, but you should always. There is a way, some states will allow you to change your birth certificate. Check with your state to see how you can do that so that you can make it match. But they require some other proofs and all that, but check with your state to see what they do. Cost and travel. For rural voters or those without a car, the requirement to visit a government office in person to show a birth certificate can be a physical and financial burden. Yeah. If you live in the rural, most times they may have 1-2 vehicles for the family. If they don't, the one person's at work and they have to go register. They may not have transportation. They'll have to call a taxi, and taxis are, not taxis hardly anymore. It'd be Uber or one of those to get them in, or if the state provides it to do that, or get a friend to drive them. So that's the burden there. how is somebody that doesn't have a vehicle going to get in? If they don't have a driver's license and can't see, that's another burden. How are they going to get in to do that? How to take action, whether you support the bill as a security measure or oppose it as a barrier to access, you can contact your representatives. And I have a link to congress.gov where you can look up your Congress member. You can also write or call the Resist bot, and I have the contact information for that. Voter registration and research. When voter registration, most states require you to register at least 30 days before the election. Check vote.gov, and there's a link for your specific state deadline. Researching candidates, voting records, use governmenttrack.us or congress.gov to contact your representative's votes and see how they voted on HR 22 and the other ones. Nonpartisan guides, guides that aren't swayed one way or the other. They just center bias, put this information out for the most part, is Ballotpedia and Vote 411. There's links provided on this information that I'll have linked on my Substack. Provide deep dives into candidates' platforms. It's sometimes a little lacking, so you may have to do your own research, but I recommend you do research it. Campaign finances, if you want to see where they're getting the money from, visit opensecrets.org, and I have a link in the write-up to use to see who is funding their campaigns. Election process overview. The U.S. election process moves from primaries selecting party nominees to the general election in November. For the presidency, the Electoral College ultimately determines the winner based on the state-by-state results. Each state manages its own poll books, but federal law like the NVRA and the proposed SAVE Act set the ground rules for who gets on those books in the first place. Thank you for staying until the end. Like, share, follow. Please remember you are loved no matter what you do. And this will be posted on my Substack, and it'll all be on one. This will just be after the congressional record on the 4th. Thank you very much.
We are the champions. No time.